Hey, so over my time as a coding tutor, I've learned a couple lessons. Before I actually get into those lessons, let me get to how I became a coding teacher, tutor. I don't really have a proper name for the role, but the summer before this one, what I wanted to do, the summer of 2023, what I wanted to do was have a summer program transferring different skills, coding, animation, leadership, different things, right? And the goal was to pass that on to the youth, the next generation, people younger than myself. I thought I was going to do that with friends, cousins. That didn't end up panning out as I wanted it to. Um, I do think it was inspired at my time as a coding as a teacher assistant for the Ruby initiative at UMD, where I was helping with coding at particularly Python. However, it didn't go as I planned. Didn't even end up happening. However, that desire still stayed there, and then eventually, over the course of some months, it became a coding class, right, where I would tutor different people, teach different people, at least starting with my cousin, and then move on to like my younger siblings and my younger cousins, different stuff like that. However, I don't know. I think while I already did something similar, that what this was much different because it wasn't that I was just a teacher assistant. I was the main focal teacher. Like I was the one creating the slideshows, using the slideshows, creating the curriculum, creating the assignments, and it was so weird. It's generally so weird, like taking that role as a student, like as an active student, becoming a teacher is weird. Because then the funniest part, right, was that I dislike I hate probably is the better word. I hate late assignments, so I would always like emphasize that. And then it felt so hypocritical to me because I would say like, no one should turn this in late. The points will be deducted. Blah blah blah. Then I'll end class. Then I'll go on my laptop. I'll see a late assignment. I was like, dang. Okay. So that like it changed my whole view on how I was as a student, and it gave me that view as a teacher. I don't think as a veteran, right, a veteran teacher, but it gave me a glimpse into that world. I think, and then that did change my participation in class. I think that's when even though I've always been an active student, that was just who I was as a person, right? But then after my glimpse as a teacher, I was more intentional about that. I was like, okay, let me participate more. Cause I know that's important. Let me help the class move forward. And that was like, okay, so. And I also understood why teachers didn't like late work, and that was something I tried to work on. I won't say I did my best. I did improve though in turning in my late work. But yeah, so that's like really the first lesson. But in terms of just like the weird duality of being a teacher and a student, I think there was a couple other lessons. The one being prep. Prep is never too much, right? You can never prep too much. I think you can prep wrongly, but you can never prepare too much, right? So what I used to do is I have the slideshows ready, but I wouldn't necessarily go over them. However, one day I had extra time on my hands, and I had a class that day, so I said, okay, you know what? Let me go over the slides. And that day, the class moved much faster because I knew, okay, this is where my slideshow ends, and then this is how I want to pace the class. Like since I knew like the thing in the back, I didn't know like it off memory, but I knew like the gist of the stuff, so I was able to improve the pacing, right? Second thing, questions are like you have to have questions, right? And that's something I knew as a student. I never liked when like a lecture would go on, there was no questions, or that there was only one question, because I thought while this information I'm being given is important, it's hard to actually engage, right? It's easy to get lost in your own thoughts. So when you have that question, I feel like it's like that hook, and you reel in the students into like actually using their brains to like map out or figure out what the answer is, right? And another thing, moving on to the next lesson I learned as a teacher, I think competition is something that brings out the best in everyone, at least in my experience. So what I did for my class with more people was that I gave them points. It was kind of, if you used it before, Class Dojo, something similar to that, but I just used an Excel sheet. And I gave them points. I'm like, okay, so like they will compete with each other. And that's how even someone who wasn't necessarily, who didn't necessarily care for the class, they would care to get more points. Right? And that's what allowed them to keep on being engaged. And then even talk about engagement, I have to take a step back. What I was always intentional about with each of my classes was that I would show them at least a glimpse into what they could do, like projects I've done, projects other people have done, right? So if I knew a student really liked Mario games, I would show them a game I made, like a platformer, someone or something else, and then I would also show them some other cool stuff I've done, just to give them that glimpse into what they're capable of, because it gives them this mental. I think I have to actually survey them, but I think it gives them like a mental pathway, and that mental pathway is like allows them to be more confident, or at least more excited to know, okay, by the end of this class, I'll be able to at least do this, right? And that's something I've always believed in my classes. So like, even when I'm doing a coding tutorial video, where I always skip to the end to see the end product. I'm okay, is this worth my time? Do I truly want to have a similar end product, or do I want to be able to recreate this? And then if I do, then I'm able to stick through the whole video, if it's an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, right? So yeah, that was another lesson of mine. But I think finally, the last lesson, right, was the actual content was not the most important thing, right? Because I knew, even though I really want to learn code, I want to be like a machine learning engineer or a software engineer, right? I know that's not the path everyone wants to take, right? So what I would do was that, as much as I wanted them to learn Python, I would also show them like a bunch of different stuff in tech. So I remember one of the assignments was, go use ChatGPT 4.0, since that was free at the time, and it's still free, I believe, as of this date. I was like, go use ChatGPT 4.0, assess the benefits, the risk, the potential future outcomes, and the limitations, right? Because I wanted to change the mindset. I think that's one of the most important things about being a programmer, is having that mindset of a programmer and thinking about how technologies work and how you should tackle problems, right? So even when it came to the coding assignments, I knew not everyone really liked them, but what I would focus on, like when I was guiding them through them, was like, okay, you have to change your mentality. Don't eat the whole elephant at once. That was a quote I stole from my teacher. But yeah, and I think the last thing was I emphasized that anything, you can literally do anything. Like I constantly informed them that I was not necessary for this class, right? And I even told one of my students' parents that really all of this information is online. And then that's why I want to show them that you can really exceed. While this class is important, it's a great way to introduce you. You can really succeed by yourself. And then I gave them those resources. So I remember at the start of the class, I had at the bottom, I created a Google Classroom. At the bottom, I have all these resources. I have all the slashes already, and I have extra resources like cheat sheets for Python or W3 schools, or a video just showing you the whole of Python, right? So they were able to gather these resources to learn on their own. I think that's probably the most important thing, is not the actual content, but the skills you gain from learning that content, right? So the skills I cared most about was research, the way you tackle problems, so problem solving, and then I think was just really knowing that you can really do anything, right? And that doesn't seem like a skill, but I think that was something I had to keep on homing in, because a lot of the time they thought, when I give them an assignment, they thought it was impossible, and I was like, no. Then by the end I'll say, was it really impossible? And they're like, no. But lastly, I think this is more a reflection of myself. I still don't think I'm the best programmer or even an expert programmer, even Python. But I do think I had to become more confident in myself, because since I believed I was like a beginner or very, very amateur programmer, I would see the stuff I was able to do. I was like, it's like, it's okay, it's not that hard. Which was actually kind of a difficult, it was a hurdle to overcome at the beginning of the class, because then what seemed so easy to me, because I didn't believe it was actually complex, or not complex, but difficult, since I didn't believe in myself as a programmer. What seemed easy to me was hard for them, and it was hard for me to acknowledge that, because I didn't believe in myself. So I had to kind of elevate or acknowledge where I was as a programmer and say, okay, I'm definitely not a beginner, right? So what seems easy to me might not be easy to them. So I had to change the way to describe it. I had to repeat stuff. And I was like, okay, while this seems really easy to me because I already know these stuff they're learning, and that's how I have to do it. And this is just a bonus lesson. I also learned this really. Actually, let me go into an example. So in this episode of Abbott Elementary, I recommend this docu series. It has a documentary approach, right, where they're filming, acting like they're filming in the show. It's this show following elementary school teachers, and one of the teachers, what they do, they have this student who really likes Bluey, and all they're doing is focus on Bluey. So instead of getting annoyed with the student, they use Bluey as a means, as a vehicle to give them the information they need. Because since they like Bluey, they say, okay, let me use that as my hook, and let me reel you in with to give you the information. So that's what I did. So I would know their interest, and I'll use that in my example. I think in coding it's really easy to do that. So because you use variables or you have to use list, and then when you're using like the items in the list, you can just reference wherever they like. Or when you're using variable names, you can say, hey, this is like a reference to this or that, and that really helped, I think. To what degree I can't say, but I do think it makes the class more interesting and it makes it less boring. I'm proud to say no one ever really slept in my class, but it was a small sample. I really had only like 2 classes, so it's not that impressive, and they weren't even big. There was like either a solo class or a class of like 5 people. So I think it is what it is. But yeah, those were my lessons as a coding tutor. I'm kind of using this because now they're ending, right? I think I want to try and take those lessons and reflect on them as a student, like using my knowledge as I don't want to acknowledge myself as a teacher because I feel like that diminishes the actual roles of teachers. Like actual people with PhD, I don't know if it's a PhD you need, but people with actual degrees. I don't want to say, oh, I'm a teacher as well, but I want to take my lessons that I've gained as a coding tutor and use that in my 4 years of college, and then even furthermore into grad school. But yeah, those are my lessons. Gonna see how I can use those to improve myself, and any more classes I do, try and get incorporate that into the curriculum I'm trying to build for senior facilities, tech curriculum, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. Besides that, I have nothing else to say. This is a lovely room. We're staying. Actually, I'm just gonna leave all that details out. But yeah, have a great day. Okay.